to bring it back around to your podcast on the Barkley, I just cannot imagine what those people went through, because I
Great
was
minds think
on
alike.
an easy course.
Yes.
It had some rocks. I actually took a trip and took kind of a hard fall on my knee, and then decided, okay, I can just power walk the rest of it. I'm not gonna, because it was my second stumble tripping while running. So
Yeah.
anyway, but I just cannot admit. I mean, okay, this is a course that I was on, well marked,
Yeah.
mostly flat with some rocks, but no thorns and no make your own way and no books to find and none of that, and
Yeah.
no bad weather. The weather was perfect, and
Yeah.
even with all those conditions, I still couldn't finish. I'm just blown away by what those people went through, and
Well, Ed, it was really funny. We don't ever really prepare for these things, but I kind of jot down notes as you're talking, and I was gonna like joke, going, "Yeah," and that leads us into Barkley. But great minds think alike, because I was thinking that because I'm sure there's people out there going, the Jester should go do Barkley. He'd do great. He can blow, and it's like, no, the Jester gets lost on a track.
No, I used to say I get lost going to the bathroom, but then a friend of mine just said something today that it's like, I'm gonna steal that. She said, I get lost in a paper bag. It's like, there we go. That's me. I get
So definitely like watching the Barkley things. That Ed has the ability to go forever. He's not going to quit. But again, also you're not that sure of foot in terms of if you see the conditions. It's just, I live back east. In fact, I was telling people live out here on the West Coast, which I believe you pretty much your whole life have. I used to live in Georgia, a suburb of Georgia. I live in apartments. You walk 50 yards behind that apartment, spin you around 3 times. You don't know where the apartment is. It's called woods. And this is in Georgia. So those crazy woods of Tennessee. And it's also just crazy because even with all your accomplishments, the 190 plus hundreds and all the things you've done, the Badwaters, which is a brutal race. The thing is, people just don't understand Barkley and the way it's set up. It's designed for failure. And there was a lot of chatter on Twitter, which I was covering, and the real old veteran guys were like, look, failure is what's expected. It's hard for a reason. It's a reason 15 people have only finished. There's a reason, and then the problem is, you had all these people keep saying, oh, well, if so-and-so showed up, they crush it, or so-and-so showed up, Killian Jordan or blah, blah, blah. And you'd be like, no, because Killian does 113 hours and goes home. Yeah. You got to be a grinder. The guys who do well in it are generally hikers and people like that. And so it's just funny, like watching the feed, and then people just like all the fanboys sometimes, oh, I'm just so disappointed it's so-and-so didn't make it. And you're like, well, that's not the point. We live in a culture where, now participation and all this BS, but it's like failure is an option and you learn from failure.
Sure.
I fail, the Jester fails. You guess it's just
that's my motto. Keep failing forward. That's what I live by. Yeah, I would go out and do Barkley just to have the experience of making it through one loop. If I could even possibly get through the 3 loops and the cutoff time on a time when there's good weather, I would be stoked. Do I have any inkling that I could finish the whole thing in 60 hours? No. I look at people like Jamil and Courtney and Maggie. I've ran with all 3. Okay. I ran in races that all 3 of them have been in, and they've completely blown me out of the water. If they can't, get even through the fun run on time, and Jamil has done it multiple times, and that guy's done hard rock and other, and look at Courtney's done. It's like, no, but I would go for the experience of it for sure. Just to say that, okay, I was there. I know what that, and a point of reference. Okay, compared to Barkley, because now I have a point of reference. People ask, well, how hard was that? Well, compared to Badwater, and every race is different because of various conditions, and even the same race, as you and I both know, the same race, the same course, ATY, 1 mile loop, but year to year, from different weather conditions, or even that one where they had the pea gravel and they took it, there's just so many factors that come into play, even your own personal, your health, your psyche, your nutrition, and there's so many factors that all come into play.
Definitely. Like I said, it just was fun watching that. And it's just, and it's also, a lot of it has to do, and and it's no problem, new people coming in with enthusiasm and excitement. It seems like the fan culture type thing is really, really strong in terms of some of my most viewed podcasts, or when I comment and say, nah, this person's not going to do this, or that's kind of unrealistic. And they get really upset, like that, like the guy, especially like with Killian Jordan, like that he's their kid or something. It's like, he's human. He fails. He tries, I'm not criticizing. I'm just like, when he was going around, him and his company were saying, they're going to do a 24-hour race. They're going to go after Giannis's 188-mile record. And then you're like, oh, they're not really serious. He's a great trail runner, but there's no competition in trail running because they limit the fields. And also I'm like, they're going to do it in Norway in November. It's freezing cold. It's dark. I know what I'm talking about, even though someone like, oh, well, you're, a fat fuck. Sorry for the cussing. But I'll be like, hey, I've been across the years freezing my ass off. That's why my thermometer is broke. And I know what 20-degree weather's like at 3 a.m. And Norway and Phoenix looked similar. And you're not going to do a great performance. Giannis Kouros himself said it when he showed up at Across the Years. This is not a place for records. It's too dusty. It's too cold. And so it's interesting so what I'm saying is, I love the people's enthusiasm, but you need to kind of like realize that like this isn't a perfect, the reason you do these things is because they're hard, because they're challenging, and failure is just what it is. In fact, I was just watching, I've been on YouTube a lot because there's some great content. North Face sponsors a ton of athletes, and they have Rory Basio, who's won UTMB, great lady. She was trying to run across Corsica, 117 miles. She's like, this is the longest I've ever gone, thousands of feet of climbing, just a total rock fest up and down this crest, basically. And, the video was 20-30 minutes long. Her girlfriends were there. Her sisters were there. She ran with all the local community. Corsica's a little Italian island. She ended up failing. She ended up not doing it. And she's like, and she's got this, one of the most amazing photos I've ever seen, where she won UTMB, 2,500 people in the race. You've run through the Alps, you run through all these small villages. When you finish, you run down this amazing, beautiful town village in Switzerland, I believe. And it's just lining the finish are crowds of people, the ancient old buildings. Imagine when we used to have crowds. And when she gets to the finish line, she turns around and puts her hands up like this, just out of celebration. It's the coolest photo because there's just all these cool, interesting European town folk. And so anyway, so that's what long-winded, but basically just really loved your take on Barkley. I would love to have you. This was the year to go. This year they had a lot of virgins go because people couldn't travel, and especially the European content. So that was definitely an issue and then he also moved it up a couple weeks. And I immediately because I was like, oh, it's usually always April Fool's, the Jester. And one of the reasons in my head, as soon as I heard that it started early, I said, oh yeah, because he wants to get away from the media circus. Yeah, because it's gotten a little bit too much. So anyways, so that's, our kind of our Barkley take. And you